Comedian Adam Carolla recently claimed that people only care about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez because they're attracted to her.
If AOC was fat and in her 60s, would anyone listen to another thing she ever said?
Oh boy, you're going to step in that one. What exactly do you mean by that? Do you mean, is it because she's young what?
Yes, she's young, she's vibrant, she's beautiful, and everyone's always putting a camera and a mic in her face. But her opinions are idiotic 95% of the time. And I don't think if she was a middle-aged, heavy-set woman, anyone would care what she had to say.
I'm not so sure I agree. Now, I will say this. You can criticize her ideas, and I do. I think the Green New Deal is madness and insanity, but she's got the whole Democratic Party following her. In my opinion, she's way more powerful than Speaker Pelosi, and if she and the squad decide Speaker Pelosi's out, I think she could probably be Speaker. If she challenges Chuck Schumer in New York, I think she has a good shot of beating him. Maybe I'm wrong.
I agree with you. I'm just saying if she was fat and old, I don't think TMZ would be chasing her around with a camera.
I didn't think we're allowed to say the word fat anymore. Is that shaming, body shaming?
Yikes. Yikes. All right, so a couple of things here. Obviously, Adam Carolla, that's some projection there. Let me just say that, okay? Yes, I mean, obviously, she's very good looking. She's beautiful, and that's why people pay attention to her. Even though 95% of the stuff that she says is, doesn't make sense to me. I don't know, it's stupid, I guess. Interesting. Way to tell on yourself. All right. Thanks for literally proving AOC's point. And I say that because remember, a couple of weeks ago, she got into this whole thing where somebody had tweeted about her boyfriend's feet. I know it goes back to that, right? And she tweeted in response, she said, look, if Republicans are mad they can't date me, they can just say that instead of projecting their sexual frustrations onto my boyfriend's feet. You creepy weirdos. Now, the right wing, of course, exploded over that. How dare you? How dare you say that I would want to date you? And then here's Adam Carolla saying, yeah, well, people only pay attention to her, like me, because she's hot. That's why people are talking about her. No, people are talking about her because, for one, she defeated an incredibly powerful establishment Democrat, Joe Crowley, who we believed was incredibly safe in his seat. This guy was a prolific fundraiser and was second in line to take over Democratic leadership from Nancy Pelosi. So he was one of the number 2 Democrats. I mean, that made some gigantic waves, right? And secondly, yes, she is more progressive than a lot of members of Congress. And so now, and she talks about some of those progressive issues, promotes progressive issues. And by the way, she's not the only one. You know who also does that? You know who also talks about these issues and got a lot of attention for it? Senator Bernie Sanders. It kind of disproves your point, doesn't it? I mean, Bernie Sanders, yeah, look, I've seen a lot of people, a lot of ladies thirsting over young Bernie. But again, he's not a spring chicken anymore. But people obviously care about what he says. Democrats do, and they talk about him, and they talk to him, and all of that stuff. And so, hey, great example of projection here by Adam Carolla. I mean, the right can't seem to understand why people like AOC are well-liked. Since they're only capable of objectifying women, they're going to assume that her looks are the only reason that people like her. And I'm not saying that also isn't partly a factor, I guess. But, some people do like her as well along with that. I'm not going to ignore that. But here's the thing, right? The policies that she advocated for, those are the things that the American people, that the Democrats really like, Democratic voters, the Democratic establishment is something else I'm going to talk about. Okay. So now, again, Medicare for all, Sean Hannity, Green New Deal, higher minimum wages, all that stuff is popular among Democratic voters, younger voters. And by the way, again, let me just show you, like, or at least tell you what Adam Carolla is not most famous for, but something that he had done earlier in his career. He was actually the co-host of The Man Show. A lot of you might have remembered that. Well, especially the older people. That had a segment called Girls Jumping on Trampolines. I mean, you want to guess what that's about? Just literally girls jumping on trampolines. Now, Jimmy Kimmel also was the second half of that show, just to point that out. And so now, unlike, of course, Adam Carolla, Jimmy Kimmel went on to have a successful career. Whereas, of course, Adam Carolla, bitter old man. That cancel culture. That said, the segment that he was on, he actually said some things that I didn't really object to. He actually was like, oh yeah, for Whoopi Goldberg, totally fine. She apologized for the, alleged anti-Semitic remarks. I've already talked about this in another video. And said, yeah, she just, she apologized, let it go. I actually agreed with that. But then he just kept bringing up AOC, unprompted. There's something there. There's something there. Like, he can't help himself. He can't help himself. But going back here to what Hannity said about AOC, he pushed back. He's like, oh, I don't know about that one. Because, AOC, the Democratic Party loves AOC. She's leading them. No, she's not. The Democratic Party, the Democratic establishment hates AOC. They hate the squad. Nancy Pelosi is not a fan of progressives. The whole of the Democratic Party does not follow AOC. They have been fighting tooth and nail to stop anyone else from getting elected who is remotely progressive. Because guess what? They might actually try to challenge the donors. I know. Now, again, has AOC made mistakes? Of course. Has she voted on bills that I disagreed with her vote on? Yes, of course. And you're totally right if you want to criticize her for those things, or for voting present on certain important votes. Sure, absolutely. But do I like her because she has the majority of correct policy positions? Yes, that is why I like her. Yes. And by the way, I like any Democrat that has the right policy positions. I don't care what they look like. By the way, Katie Porter and her whiteboard, love her. Absolutely. And again, whenever there's a video of her schooling an executive, I love to show it. It's awesome. And again, a lot of Democratic voters also really like Katie Porter because she's awesome. She's really good at holding people accountable. And by the way, Democratic voters, look, her campaign was one of the top fundraisers in the House. Now, she's not young. She's 47 years old, right? And so I don't really know if that point that he made really stands up, because people really like Katie Porter too. Every time she comes out and schools somebody with that whiteboard, Democrats love it. And I love it. And so, look, this is what happens. See, on the left, we're not troglodytes that only judge a person based on her looks. And by the way, I'm not trying to, I just want to clarify something too. I'm not saying that Katie Porter doesn't look good. Okay. I'm saying that it's not important what she looks like at all. And so, again, just to go back and make that point, we don't care about how you look. It's what you do. It's what you advocate for. And so, unlike the right, we don't judge people just on looks. We don't do that. People don't just like AOC because she looks good. No, people like AOC mainly because of the policy positions. But again, You know, that's what you should judge them on. Always judge them on policy. And if they're going to fight for the people,